sound in here, boys.
Chelsea.
Thank you very much. Welcome back to the Chelsea Football FanCast. I'm Stanford Chidge, and you are watching and hopefully listening to the Chelsea FanCast now, because I might have plugged the cable into the right hole, I hope. But anyway, we were talking about the West Brom game before the break, and we're going to carry that right on now. Actually, before we do, I just want to say, have you seen the poppy we've got on our screen? That's a nice touch, that, isn't it? Well done, Greg, for that. I'm very, very pleased and proud that he has done that. There we go. Isn't that beautiful? Anyway, the first thing really we ought to discuss in anger is, was it a penalty, and do we care? Pablo?
No, it wasn't, and no, we don't.
No, I mean, that's the beautiful thing, isn't it? I mean, all these people going mental about it, and I did actually laugh, because I didn't think it was a penalty at all.
I think we're owed a few penalties, aren't we, after games like Barcelona when we had 5 bolt-on ones. So it's about time, I think, we had something.
And I think you can also argue, was it a dive? You can't prove it, so,
I've seen it so many actually, do you know what? The funny thing is, isn't it funny, when your first gut instinct when you're at a game is actually invariably the right one, and right at the time, and I mean, I obviously I'm in a good position to see it from where we are in Gate 17, but obviously he was obscured by a lot of defenders. But right at the time I thought, oh, blimmin' hell, typical. Ramires has tripped over his feet again, because he does, Bendy man has a habit of doing that. And then when that happened, I just thought, that's hilarious.
But that wasn't exactly what. I mean,
he got kind of barged a bit, didn't he?
He took the contact, so because there was contact, you can't really say it was a dive. I mean, it wasn't a foul, was it? And Stephen Reid himself said after the game, "Well, I had my hand on my side. I'm not sure what else he could have done."
Yeah. I mean, he was already going down. He looked like Ramires was going, but it looked like he might have just been off balance a bit and was going to correct himself before he hit into Stephen Reid.
I still think the defender had time to just kind of not go into him. I still think he had a little bit of time.
When he's trying to lean in to get the ball, though, I think it's hard for Reid to move completely away.
He was just trying to put him under pressure, wasn't he, really?
But to be fair to Ramires, he's not as bad as Ashley Young.
But
that's what they're saying now.
Exactly. He's like a prima ballerina or something like that. But no, nobody is as bad as Ashley Young.
Although surely that makes Ramires better than Ashley Young, because he actually gets penalties out of it and doesn't get.
Well, I mean, not that I really want to talk about Ashley Young at all, but I mean, that dive he did against whoever it was, Real Sociedad last week, was just embarrassing. I mean, if I was playing football with a player like that on the pitch and he did that, I would want to punch him. I would just want to go up to him and go smack, because he deserves it. I mean, it's just pathetic. That's the only way to describe it. Ramires is, as I said, he is bendy man. He does have a habit of tripping over his own feet without being pushed. So
Mr. Crowder is not happy.
He's not happy with me calling him bendy man.
Dive. No, he's saying dive. Only blue tinted can see a foul. He made the contact, and then we kept talking. He said nonsense, no contact, none at all.
Paul's he's on it already. I love it.
He's made it very clear. Reid doesn't move towards him at all. He's still going. Says one sentence. It is a dive. If it was Young, you would be doing your nuts. Call it what it is, a dive.
I think for the benefit of Paul was on the show the other week, of course, Paul Crowder, and of course he's listening. Hopefully they're listening on Mixler now. I don't know if
Paul Crowder is. I don't know
if they are, but I'm sure I've plugged it in the right hole now. But anyway, I should at this point state, for the reasons of truth and honesty and clarity, that Paul is also a referee out in the States, so he will come at it perhaps from a slightly different angle than ours. But there we go. The other thing about the penalty, of course. I didn't really have any doubt that Hazard would miss that, and I have to say, what a wonderfully nonchalant penalty by Eden Hazard.
And the battle had been won by the fact that it had been given, to be honest. I don't think the keeper was ever going to save that unless he just passed it straight at
maybe.
him.
I mean, maybe they were defeated, they were deflated by that. But I mean, it was just because, again, I had a great view of that, and it was just so casual.
I just think the West Brom felt so cheated by it.
Yeah, they did.
In their minds, there was never ever going to be any circumstance.
Well, they had lost. I mean, they lost it in more ways than one, Pablo. And I think you're right. I think psychologically they were done, because they really should have walked away with 3 points. And apparently Myhill kicked out at Branner when he got.
The goalkeeper kicked Branner. Yeah, that's why he was so annoyed.
Yeah. I was too busy celebrating to see it all, but obviously it kind of like.
I mean, there we go. We got
he hoofs him. It takes his legs away.
They got 7 yellows in the end, didn't they, West Brom?
We'll talk about that.
3 or 4 of them were in the aftermath of the penalty.
I don't know how many it was, but they had 7 bookings. Yeah. But I mean, that was naughty, and that got absolutely missed. But
Branner got booked for it, didn't he?
Well, he did, but this is the point. Papa was absolutely right. I missed it in leaping about. I actually got clumped in the face by Paul Benches. I'm going to have to stand next to somebody else. He's just too mental to stand next to him. And he's so tall, when he loses it like that...
So he punched you celebrating?
He kind of just went... Right. He just clumped me. He didn't mean to.
Oh, it's probably a bear hug or something.
Well, I know, but he's like really... we've got to get our, celebrations It's coordinated
So
better.
in the first 3 months of the season, you've gone from it's amazing standing next to Paul to now he's like, no, I don't want to do it
I do love benches, but he's got to stop clumping me when we celebrate. But yeah, I missed all of that like you did. But what I did see was, you know, the melee. I mean, I saw Branner with the ball and people pushing him, and you know, and then I wondered why he got. And I just presumed the West Brom were trying to hide, you know, nick the ball, whatever. I don't know. I kind of
felt like he probably whacked someone on the way back because that's the kind of thing he
probably did.
Well, I mean,
we didn't see that bit. There isn't a picture either.
Frankly, what a stupid thing to do if you're a West Brom player. Who, admittedly, they're all giants. They are big, these guys. But I mean, there was some interview. I don't know when it was done, whether it was recent or not. But Frank, I saw something on Twitter this week about Frank Lampard, and the question he was asked is, if any of the players are going to have a boxing match at Chelsea, who would win? And he just said, without any hesitation, Branner.
Yeah.
He's nails, isn't he? Yeah. I mean, you know, don't pick on Branner.
He's proper Chelsea.
He is. I love him.
Yeah.
He's a nutter. I love him. There is, funnily enough, you know, talking about the referee and how dirty West Brom are, there is actually a tweet that I lifted this weekend from somebody who's on the benches. Bunsey, your tweet on the benches was West Brom. I can't read it all, I don't think, because you probably put a rude word in there, but you said West Brom are the dirtiest side to visit the Bridge this season. Their second goal was a joke, 7 bookings, and that's absolutely right. I mean, that second goal, again, I had a superb view of, and I'm sorry, but I think Jakob rugby tackled Branner.
Yeah, it was a difficult one at the time. I was unsure whether or not there was a foul or if he'd just been completely mugged by the two of them. I haven't seen it again. I'm still not entirely convinced Ivanovic shouldn't have dealt with it better, but there was probably a foul in the build-up.
You have to say Clarkey got his homework right there, don't you?
Well, he did, actually. I mean, you know, all this talk about the game as a whole, and I think it's a very, very valid point to say, you know, West Brom are not a bad side. Steve Clarke is a good manager. But I think of all the managers in the world who are going to know how Mourinho sets up a team and how to play against them, it's got to be his brother, Steve Clarke. Yeah. Brother from another mother, apparently. You hear that? He called Stevie Clarke his brother before the game. I wonder what he called him after.
When West Ham played, when Clarke was assistant manager there, they switched. We had to attack the shed end first half. Then I think if they'd won the toss, they'd done the same thing. Clarke, I mean, Mourinho's tactics always been the same as Plan B and whatnot. Clarke probably has been actually planning things quite well for the match.
They did a good job on us, mate. I mean, they were well organised. And as I said, on another day, we would have lost that 2-1. I mean, you know, we did get out of jail, I think.
Oh, yeah, you can't argue that.
Got a laugh, though, haven't you? I did. I thought it was hilarious. You know, give it, you know, 99 minutes. I don't care.
I'm beginning to think that
I'm not a sportsman. What can I say?
The home record might be becoming more of a burden than anything now.
Do you know what? That's a good point.
So frightened about losing at home because it's been going on for so long with Mourinho that it's actually going to bring out.
I thought it was great that Mourinho said that when that record goes, he'll go out and celebrate with a good bottle of wine and everything. I thought that was brilliant because he's under no pressure. He doesn't mind.
I mean, and it's got to go sometimes.
Yeah.
It's got to go. Yeah. You know, I mean, I actually thought it was quite interesting when we lost against Basel because I was trying to think, blimey, I can't actually remember when we've been beaten at home with Mourinho. I mean, I know that. I mean, we lost to Charlton on penalties, but as Mourinho says, penalties don't count.
Exactly.
You know, quite right. You know, so it's interesting.
It would only been Barcelona, I think. Now the only 2 teams under Mourinho. I mean, in all.
Yeah, 2-1, wasn't it?
In domestic cups, he's only lost. Obviously, that one for Real Madrid. And if he hadn't lost that, his record would have been even more impressive. Maybe it wouldn't have been. Maybe he'd actually care more about it. But
for that Barcelona game, was that Eto's first goal for Chelsea as well? Didn't he score an own goal?
Oh,
yeah.
Was that player?
I can't remember.
I think
this is why we need Stato.
we need a Stato for that.
Chelsea Chatter would know the answer to this. If you're watching at home, Chatter, which I think you probably are, we need to know, was Eto's first goal for Chelsea actually an own goal for Barcelona? But there you go. Benches, we haven't heard from you for a while. Who would like to say anything on the benches? I mean, I think particularly about really what I want to say. Do you really give a damn about the penalty or not? Or did you laugh like I did when it went in? You're all nodding. You have a microphone if you want to say something. Look at that, Andy. It's the quickest I've ever seen you move, Andy. What do you reckon, mate? It's a comedy mic.
It wasn't a penalty and we don't care.
Wow. They've got the weird echo. It is definitely the comedy mic, Andy. That's not too short.
It goes with the top though, Chidge, anyway. It goes with the top.
Now. I liked you with the reverb, Andy.
Did Cheddar bring his own mic? Where's the other one?
No. Well, technical. Don't worry. Technical stuff. Anyway. Okay. We've kind of done everything, really, but there's so much more to talk about, really. I've got something so special for you coming up. You're going to love this in a minute. But I think, you know, generally talking about the game, as we are, somebody said, it was Benches again, actually, he said to me, he said, well, I've got a song for you. It's like, wake up, Chelsea, Chelsea, wake up. Well, apparently it's not something we used to sing a long time ago, although, of course, in the mists of time and alcohol, I don't really remember. But, you know, there was definitely...
It was a little bit of mixture of Wake Up Chelsea and Come On Chelsea. That's
wake
what
up,
I heard,
Chelsea, wake up, Chelsea, wasn't it? It was, wasn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Or
Actually,
just total silence where I was in the East.
talking about the old days, actually, because I will forget this later on. But Greg has brought some what we like to
I have a little bit of nostalgia,
memorabilia, isn't it?
Tiny bit. I've got some more programmes elsewhere, but that's the first match I ever went to.
This is the first. It's way too far away.
Chelsea. I can hold it a little bit.
I tell you what, when you get
closer.
home, freeze the image and blow it up. You know, who needs a zoom? No, but seriously, I'll just tell you, it's Saturday the 8th of January, Huddersfield Town, 1971, 72.
My first match, I was 8 years old, so I'm ageing
Peter
myself
Bonetti
massively as we speak.
Have we got more? We've got more.
Oh,
this is the one I really love.
I have Millwall away.
Oh, Millwall.
I went to Millwall away as I was just about 13.
I've lost. I had one of these actually, but what I should say about this is that Al's book, The Wrong Outfit, he talks about this, the Millwall away game, and it's one of the best things in the book. It really, really is.
Hysterically terrifying. That's the way I would describe it.
So I'm loving that. Now, which is the one which you've got the one that another thing about your book is that you go into the Damned advert. What's on the floor? No, it's not.
That's not it.
What is this, comedy hour?
Mike on the floor.
Leave it out. Don't worry about it. I've got to show you this. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but this is the Chelsea Wolves one.
Oh, the mic.
Chelsea Wolves one.
I thought you meant the actual
It's
microphone.
comedy hour tonight.
It is comedy. Thank you.
FanCast.
Thank you, benches.
Hey!
Thank you.
Here we go. This is what I wanted to see when they get back to me. And it's a bit small, but in that corner there...
Do you want me to walk into the camera?
No.
I can hold it a little bit.
Go on, walk to the camera.
Yeah, go on.
I love this. This is Darren. This is groundbreaking TV.
Oh, it's too dark. Can you not see it?
Anyway, look, for those of you listening...
That's okay.
It is a picture of the Damned, who are a great punk band. And the significance of that, Al, is what?
I'll explain. It was just before Christmas, 1976. I got into the ground at 2 o'clock, as you did, an hour before. I was sitting on the terraces reading this programme and turned to that page and I saw literally this ad just saying the Damned first single on
New
Stiff
Rose.
Records, which was the first punk
New
single.
Rose?
New Rose, yeah, the first punk single ever released, which I thought was a little bit strange in a football programme.
But that's what it was like then.
But it was really intriguing because that's what all it said. It just had a picture of the band and like an advert for the punk single. So I thought I'm going to have to find out a little bit more about it, being a 13-year-old as you do.
And you wouldn't be here now if that was the case, really.
Well, I certainly wouldn't have got into music or got into punk and football all sort of intertwined. Because remember, there was a punk band called Chelsea.
There was.
But there wasn't a punk band called Arsenal, and there wasn't a punk band called Tottenham, and there wasn't a punk band called West Ham United.
There you go. There you go. The only punk band was called Chelsea. I like that. Right, now, anyway, going back to the football, I couldn't resist that little bit of dialogue.
No, it's fine.
I thought that was... I would forget to mention that earlier on, and Greg very kindly brought them in. But going up to Chelsea waking up, there was a link there somewhere, I promise you. Somebody called @70ChelseaBH said, and I just thought this absolutely... I think this is Vic, actually, but I think it sums it up perfectly. There's no urgency, no intensity, no real passion, and we attack with the speed of a snail. No one really shows for the ball. It's woeful. Discuss.
It is slow, but it's always going to be difficult when you get teams that are turning up and playing on the counter with players behind the ball, particularly when we aren't playing with width. And I think that's the thing that we've really been missing, is sort of genuine wide players that don't want to cut inside. Because when you cut inside to two very close banks of four, or a 4 and a 5, it gets more difficult to find space.
I think it's absolutely right. I think that it's no accident that Branner gets so much of the ball in recent games, because all the teams that we play against at the moment have figured out that he's just going to go up there and he's not going to put in a decent ball. And they let him have the ball. They're obviously letting him have the ball. It's frightening.
I thought Willian had some nice moments when he put crosses in, because he was putting them in about sort of shoulder height, and they were quite dangerous. But there's no width. No. We're not going wide enough, so we're sort of trying to play through people.
Well, the only width that we've got is Branner going up, but there are no overlaps going on. You know, Aspie or Ashley, Ash either can't get forward anymore or is being told not to. And I think Aspie was under the same heavy manners. And I think the reason for that is that they know that if Aspie goes up, Hazard's, if it all breaks down and he's left stranded there, because Hazard's not going to track back.
Aspie's playing out of position a bit
and
as well.
I
he should
think
be on the other
It's
side.
really
as well.
uncomfortable
So
using his
the
left
thing with
foot.
the
I thought he
overlaps-
played well though, because he was out of
I
position.
did too, to be fair.
With the overlaps, is it's only because Branner runs down there on his own to cross the ball, so therefore no one's going to really be overlapping him. It'd only work if the right midfielder had the ball, and then Branner went to overlap him. But it seems to be only Branner that wants to cross from out wide anyway. So all he can do is pass it near the touchline to the West Ham, which always goes off the pitch because there's no one actually ready.
But the other thing is, I think when you take that factor into consideration, that we don't really have the wide players and the fullbacks aren't augmenting, as wide players, and you get a very well organised team that basically defends, 4 defenders, 5 midfielders, effectively spreading it across the midfield, and they make us go narrow, and then we try and tick-a-tacker it round, and it just doesn't work.
How can we play like we did against Arsenal in the Cup with all that width, and then suddenly play like we did against WBA?
Because Arsenal come out.
Arsenal
try
come
to
out and they
attack.
leave you the space. This is the thing. I mean, if you've got these guys, as I said, if you've got a team that's just going to set up, 4 at the back, 5 in midfield, and they know you're not going to go wide, they know all your players are going to go, and because you've got Oscar Hazard and Mata all like to kind of cut in, and it just gets quagmired in the middle. And, the number of times I see us have a really decent attack, I'm going, shoot, run at them, put a ball in, and then they stop. And then they pass it inside, and then they pass it again to
Or like shoot more like Lampard used to do.
Yeah.
But he's not. He's just like passing the ball. We're just passing it sideways.
Exactly.
It's
There's
too
no
slow.
shooting, and there's no running at people. And I think this is the thing that really concerns me most. I mean, we've got some very talented players like Hazard, but run at their defence. The worst that can happen is that you'll get fouled and we'll get a free kick. Now, Joe Tweeds, no less a man, in fact, than Joe Tweeds, on the Plains of Almira this week, wrote an excellent blog about the fact that our side at the moment seems to be very, very unbalanced, and I think really this is what we're talking about. And I thought it would be a bit of a giggle if I actually took note of what the great, no less a man than Joe Tweed said, and I've created my own Chidge's Balanced 11 for your edification. Here it is. So I reckon, a lot of the points he was making was this, is that, I think Cahill and Terry are definitely are probably our best 2 centre-backs. I think Louis, naughty step, not learning his lessons. Ashley Cole, out of form. Bertrand, a left-back. Well, a left-back who is young, who has energy, who will, he will overlap and he'll make attacks. Aspie played brilliantly against Arsenal for the same reason. He's a proper right-back, and I think he probably can put a decent ball in, and he is prepared to go forward. The real contention, of course, is in the midfield. And frankly, the only proper defensive midfielder that we have in the squad, I would argue, is Mikel. Why does this man not start? He plays like a defensive midfielder. And he has a lovely triangle going on with Cahill and Terry. And that's what you need. Now, the other contentious thing, I'll run through it first, Greg, and we'll try and have a little bit of chat about it. But the real contention is Lampard or Ramires. I don't think Ramires can do that role really effectively in my book, and I don't think Lamps can either. I don't think he's a defensive midfield player, and I don't think he's got the legs to get up and down. So I wonder why we can't play Oscar there. Oscar has everything. Okay, he could play anywhere. He's that kind of a player. But you know what? I don't necessarily think he's the best number 10 in the side, because I think Mata probably is. But you know what? Oscar can tackle, he can run, he can do 50-yard passes, he can do 5-yard passes, he can run box to box, and he can score. For me, I think he would be the best player in what at the moment is the Lamps position. So why not play him there? And then, of course, Mata, I would definitely pick up a number 10. I would have Schürrle in, because I think Mourinho likes a player like that who could track back. And Hazard, I'd like to play Hazard because I think he's a super player, and Torres up front because he's in good form. But just to finish my point on this, you could substitute Ramires for Oscar, for example, in that role. You could put Essien for Mikel in that role. You could play Willian for Hazard. You could play Lampard could come on 10, 15 minutes to go as an impact sub to replace Mata. So there are more options, but I think for me, that is our best balanced team and our best side per se.
You're getting a lot of love on Mixler, it seems. Wow. Paul Crowder begins with, what was that, Chidge? No Louise? Question mark, smiley face. But after that...
I'll give him that.
Dino80 says if Andrew's a poor right back at home, doesn't work. Kevin Hennessy, that looks a pretty good 11 to me. Paul Crowder again, that was a great lineup, Chidge. Let's see, there's a few other ones. Azrina N2N says loving the starting 11. So yeah, you've got quite a good, excellent starting 11 at home, Reverend Brasingwa says. So yeah, you've got...
Well,
no one disagreed with you.
To be fair, a little bit of the love should go to Joe Tweeds, but I took his article and had a bit of a chat with him about it on Twitter, and I then constructed the 11 built around our chat.
Yeah, but that's your one, not Tweeds'.
It's definitely mine. In fact, actually, Joe, if you are watching, I have copyrighted that, so be very afraid. Unfortunately, we have to go to a break now because I was just really getting into that. But we will be back very, very shortly to do the fannies for both the Schalke and the West Brom match. I think it'd only be fair because probably there wouldn't be many if we just left it to the West Brom match. See you in a second.